look at this question, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, kindly do so that you don't miss any video whenever I upload. Alright, so this question is focusing on coordination. Specifically, we are talking about the central nervous system as well as peripheral nervous system. So figure 1.0 is the diagram showing the structures involved in the reflex arc. So you have to understand and identify the type of a reflex arc shown on this diagram here. We have different types of reflex action. For example, can talk of cranial reflex, can talk of spinal reflex, which is the same one which is on this diagram here. We also have conditioned reflex and other types of reflexes. Alright, so here there is a hot pan, and as you can see, this diagram is showing how the impulse is traveling from one region to another. So you have to understand that this is the hot pan, and when you place your hand on the hot pan, the hand has what we call the receptors. These receptors, they are able to sense the change in temperature. So since the pan is hot, they are going to sense to say this pan is hot, and then they are going to send the impulse to the spinal cord. Now, what type of cells are going to sense the change in the temperature? Specifically, we're talking about the stimulus here, which is the temperature. So these cells, they are called the sensory cells. Okay, the sensory cells. Remember, on this hand here, we have the sensory receptors. So these sensory receptors are the ones that have the sensory cells that are able to detect or change the the temperature into an electrical impulse and travel through this route here. And we can see to say we have also this arrow here, which is also symbolizing the sensory cells. And on this part here for Q, we can say we have the receptor, which is the sensory receptor. So let me correct that one. So we can say here we have the sensory receptor. Okay. Then this arrow is the sensory cell. The sensory cell. Then this is the spinal cord. In the spinal cord, you're going to find a type of a cell which is going to connect the sensory cell as well as the motor cell or the motor neuron. So P is the motor neuron or the motor cell. So this is the motor neuron or the motor cell. Even here you can also say the sensory neuron or the sensory cell. Just okay. So now we have this structure S, which is connecting the motor neuron as well as the sensory neuron. So this one is called the relay neuron, or you can say the relay cell. Relay neuron. So that is how you're supposed to identify these. Question A, it is saying name the structures Q, P, and S. So for Q, I'm from saying that this is the sensory receptor. So we can say sensory receptor. If you don't want to say sensory receptor, you can just say a receptor. Or you can talk about, or you can say thermoreceptor. Since when you talk of thermo means heat. Okay? Since here we have a hot pan, so meaning to say those receptors, they are able to detect the change in temperature. So they can be called as thermoreceptors or receptor. This one is also acceptable. For P, that one is the motor neuron. So the function of the motor neuron is to take now the information from the spinal cord to the muscles, which are the effectors. So this is the receptor, and these muscles, the skeletal muscles, they are effectors. So the effectors, in terms of the function, they are able to contract or relax depending on the stimulus which is there. So the withdrawal of the hand once someone touches the hot object is due to the contraction of the bicep muscles. So these are the bicep muscles and these are the tricep muscles. Then for S, that one is the delay neuron or the connector if you want. So we can say delay neuron. If you don't want to say delay neuron, you can also say connector neuron. Connector neuron. It is also acceptable. Then give one example of cranial reflex. So an example of cranial reflex, we can talk about blinking. This is because when you talk of cranial reflex, it is a reflex which is not consciously controlled by the brain. Something which is not consciously controlled by the brain, but you are able to do it. Like blinking. Someone can blink without thinking about it, that I'm blinking. So those are the things that you have to know. When I say without consciously controlled by the brain, meaning to say it is not controlled by the brain. You just do it without knowing. Sometimes you can control it, like you want to blink, but as time goes on, you're even going to forget about that. So that one is a cranial reflex. So you can say blinking. Okay, as an example of a cranial reflex. Then state three types of muscles. So of course here there are three types of muscles. So we have what we call the smooth muscles. Is it double O? I think it's double O. So smooth muscles. So these smooth muscles, they are mostly found in the lining of the O of organs, like let me say, yeah, the O of organs. For example, they line up the stomach, they line up the blood vessels, they also line up different organs like the heart, even the small intestine, large intestine, all those things, or in short the GI thing. Then apart from the smooth muscles, we also have what we call the skeletal muscles. Skeletal muscles. So these ones now are involved in the contraction and relaxation so that a living organism can locomote. Okay, so you know the difference between locomotion and movement. Locomotion, the entire living organism is going to move from one place to another. Then movement, just the movement of body parts. Then the last one is the cardiac muscle, the one that makes up the heart. So we have the cardiac muscle or cardiac muscles. So these are the ones that makes up the heart. Then the last question is saying, one of the uses of ATP is that it is used in the conduction of electrical impulses. So for electrical impulses to be conducted, ATP is needed. Now the question is saying, state any other two uses. So it is used in cell division. So for cell division to occur, ATP has to be present there. So you can say used in cell division. Okay, so used in cell division. For mitosis to occur, for meiosis to occur, ATP has to be there. Then apart from that one, we can also say used in the contraction and relaxation of muscles. In the contraction and relaxation of muscles, or we can say of skeletal muscles. Then apart from that one, it is also the energy currency. So whenever you eat food, whatever you are going to eat, it is going to be converted into glucose. But sometimes ATP, it can be formed from other sources apart from carbohydrates. That is one thing that you need also to know. But ATP is the energy currency that the body uses to perform our daily basis. So thank you very much for watching, and remember to subscribe for more videos.